The Washington draw came out on Saturday night, and within minutes, tennis social media seemed to explode around one sentence: Alex Eala could face Leylah Fernandez. That is the headline. That is the matchup everyone immediately noticed. That is the potential second-round showdown that has already started generating predictions, arguments, excitement, and endless speculation. But there's a problem. That headline might be getting the entire story wrong. Because before Alex Eala can even think about facing Fernandez, before she can walk onto another American hard court against one of the biggest names in Canadian tennis, before fans can start imagining another chapter in what could become a fascinating rivalry, she has to survive one of the most dangerous opening round assignments imaginable. And almost nobody is talking about it. Not the quarterfinals. Not the semifinals. Not some hypothetical weekend matchup. Round 1. That is where the real danger begins. And once you actually open the Washington draw and look at Alex's path line by line, the situation becomes much more complicated than the viral headline suggests. Because this is not simply a story about whether Alex Eala can reach Leylah Fernandez. It is a story about whether she can even get there. And there is a reason I keep coming back to that distinction. Alex enters Washington as a 21-year-old player who has already changed the perception of Philippine tennis. She arrives with a career-high ranking of world number 28, with an increasingly international fan base, with the pressure that comes from becoming one of the most recognizable young players in women's tennis. And for the first time, she is stepping into this particular tournament with everyone watching. There is no hiding anymore. There is no entering the draw as an unknown. There is no possibility of quietly sneaking through the early rounds while the spotlight remains somewhere else. The spotlight is already on Alex, and the Washington draw has placed a very serious test directly in front of her. So let's slow this down, because 3 things are about to become extremely important. First, there is the round 1 trap and why a dangerous wild card can sometimes be more threatening than a highly ranked seed. Second, there is a result from earlier this season that connects the players on this side of the draw in a way that most previews have completely ignored. And third, there is one number, 70, that explains why this particular week could matter enormously for Alex Eala's career. Those 3 details completely change the way you should look at this tournament. And once you understand them, the potential Fernandez matchup suddenly becomes the 4th chapter of the story rather than the beginning. So, let's open this draw properly. Because Alex Eala's Washington week is not going to be decided by a headline. It is going to be decided one match at a time. The match everyone is talking about, let's start with the obvious. Alex Eala and Leylah Fernandez. It is an incredibly marketable matchup. A young Filipina star with a rapidly expanding international following against a Canadian Grand Slam finalist and one of the most recognizable players of her generation. It has everything. Different countries, different tennis cultures, different journeys, but enormous fan bases. And most importantly, both players have developed reputations for competing with intensity and refusing to disappear when matches become uncomfortable. So naturally, when fans saw the draw and realized that Eala could potentially meet Fernandez, the reaction was immediate. Posts started appearing. Predictions started circulating. People began discussing the matchup as if it were already scheduled. But it isn't. Not yet. There is still a match between Alex and that possibility. And that match is not some easy opening assignment designed to ease her into the tournament. It is the kind of match that can completely destroy a player's plans before the tournament even has time to develop. This is the part casual viewers often forget about tennis. A draw is not a straight road. It is a series of doors. You don't get to walk through door number 2 until you survive door number 1. And sometimes door number 1 is the hardest door of all. That is exactly what makes this Washington draw so fascinating. Everyone is looking at Fernandez. Alex has to look directly in front of her. The round 1 trap here is the first thing you need to understand. A player receiving a wild card can be incredibly dangerous. The word wild card sounds harmless. It isn't. In fact, some of the most uncomfortable first-round opponents are players who enter tournaments without the ranking pressure associated with a seeded player. They can play freely. They can attack. They can take risks. And they have absolutely nothing to lose. That creates a very different psychological equation. Alex, meanwhile, enters Washington with expectations. She is ranked inside the world's top 30. She has just experienced an extraordinary period in her career. She is no longer simply trying to prove she belongs. She has already proven it. Now she has to defend that position. That changes everything. When you are ranked outside the top 100 and facing a player ranked 28th, the pressure is almost entirely on your opponent. But when you are Alex Eala, walking onto the court as one of the most talked about young players in the tournament, everyone expects you to win. And that expectation can become its own opponent. The danger is not necessarily the opponent's ranking. The danger is what the match means to Alex. She cannot afford to treat it casually. She cannot afford a slow start. She cannot afford to spend the first set figuring out the conditions. And she certainly cannot afford to look beyond her opponent toward a potential Fernandez showdown. Because tennis has a brutal way of punishing players who start thinking about the next round too early. One bad service game, one loose return game, one stretch of 5 or 6 points. Suddenly the player who is supposed to advance is fighting for survival. That is why this opening match matters so much. Alex is no longer the unknown. There was a time when Alex Eala could walk onto a tournament court without the opponent carrying an enormous amount of information about her. That time is disappearing. Fast. Every major result adds another chapter to the scouting report. Her movement is known. Her left-handed patterns are known. Her ability to redirect pace is known. Her aggressive baseline game is known. Her willingness to absorb pressure is known. Her mental toughness is known. And increasingly, her ability to perform in front of large crowds is known. That is an enormous difference from where she was only a short time ago. Alex is now entering tournaments as someone opponents prepare for. That is the price of success. And Washington could be one of the first tournaments where that new reality becomes impossible to ignore. The opponent across the net knows exactly what Alex represents. The crowd knows. The media knows. Her supporters know. And Alex knows. The question is whether she can embrace that pressure rather than allowing it to become a burden. The number 70, now we get to the number that could quietly define this entire week. 70. At first glance, it looks like just another ranking number. But numbers in tennis often tell a much bigger story than they appear to. For Alex Eala, the importance of this tournament is not only about winning matches. It is about what happens to her ranking position, her seeding possibilities, her future draws, and the way the rest of the tour begins treating her. Every step upward changes the mathematics. Every ranking milestone creates new opportunities. And every protected position gives a player a little more control over her future. That is why the number 70 matters. It represents the kind of ranking territory where the difference between one result and another can have consequences far beyond a single tournament. Alex has already climbed dramatically. She has moved from being a promising junior into the professional conversation. She has pushed through the lower rankings. She has established herself inside the top 100. She has broken into the top 50. And now she has reached number 28. That trajectory is extraordinary. But staying there is harder than getting there. This is the stage where every tournament begins carrying additional weight. The competition is deeper. The opponents are more prepared. The expectations are higher. And the margin for error becomes smaller. Washington, therefore, isn't simply another stop on the calendar. It is another test of whether Alex can turn a breakthrough period into sustained success. The pressure of number 28. Think about what number 28 actually means. It means Alex is no longer chasing the top 30. She is inside it. She has reached a position that many young players spend years trying to reach. But that achievement creates a strange paradox. The higher you climb, the more people expect you to climb again. Number 28 becomes number 20. Number 20 becomes number 15. Then suddenly people are talking about the top 10. This is how tennis narratives change. 1 month you're the surprise player. The next month you're expected to make quarterfinals. Then semifinals. Then people start asking why you haven't won a major title yet. That is the nature of elite sport. Success doesn't eliminate pressure. It creates a different kind of pressure. And Alex is now entering that world. Washington is one of those tournaments where the difference between maintaining momentum and losing momentum can be very small. A first-round loss could create questions. A deep run could push the story in an entirely different direction. A strong victory over a difficult opponent could reinforce the belief that Alex has genuinely become one of the tour's emerging forces. That is why the opening match matters. The Fernandez question now, let's return to Leylah Fernandez. Because yes, the potential matchup is fascinating. But there is another reason it deserves attention. Fernandez represents the kind of opponent Alex is eventually going to have to beat regularly if she wants to establish herself among the elite. Not just once. Not as a surprise. Regularly. Players with experience at the biggest stages. Players who understand how to survive difficult matches. Players who know how to turn a crowd against you. Players who know how to change tactics mid-match. Players who have already experienced the pressure of Grand Slam finals. That is the level Alex is approaching. And if the draw gives us Eala versus Fernandez, it would provide another valuable test of where Alex stands. But the match should not be viewed as a fantasy matchup. It should be viewed as a measuring stick. Whereas Alex compared with one of the established names of her genera. Tyan? Can her baseline game hold up? Can she deal with Fernandez's intensity? Can she stay composed if the match becomes physical? Can she maintain her level when the opponent refuses to give her free points? Those are the questions that would make the matchup meaningful. But none of them matter if Alex doesn't survive round one. That is the uncomfortable truth. Why the draw is so dangerous. The Washington draw is dangerous because it offers almost no room for distraction. There is an obvious narrative waiting at the end of the road. Fernandez, the defending champion storyline, the North American spotlight, the possibility of another viral tennis moment. All of it is tempting. But Alex's team cannot prepare for the second round yet. They have to prepare for the first. And that means focusing on details. The return position, the first serve percentage, the length of rallies, the opponent's preferred patterns, the Washington conditions, the hard court speed, the emotional management, everything. Because when a player reaches a career-high ranking, every opponent wants the signature victory. Beating Alex Eala is no longer simply a good win. For many players, it becomes a statement. It says, I beat the player everyone is talking about. That creates additional danger. Alex has become the target. The Eala effect. There is also another element that makes Washington different. The crowd. Alex doesn't simply arrive at tournaments anymore. She brings people with her. That is one of the most remarkable developments in her career. Filipino fans have followed her across continents. They have turned tennis matches into cultural gatherings. They bring flags. They wear national colors. They create noise. They make tournaments feel bigger. And that support can become a genuine competitive advantage. But it can also create pressure. Because when thousands of people are cheering for you, you feel responsible for giving them something to celebrate. Alex has shown an impressive ability to handle that responsibility. She doesn't appear overwhelmed by it. She often acknowledges the crowd. She smiles. She taps her heart. She raises her racket. But when the point begins, she becomes intensely focused. That balance is one of the qualities that has made her so appealing to fans. She can connect with the crowd without allowing the crowd to control her tennis. Washington could test that balance again. The earlier result nobody is talking about now. Let's get to the second detail. There is a result from earlier this year that connects the players on this side of the draw. And it matters because tennis rivalries are rarely built from a single match. They are built from memories. A player remembers how an opponent handled pressure. She remembers where the opponent attacked. She remembers what happened on break points. She remembers what happened when the match became uncomfortable. And those memories matter the next time they meet. Alex has already accumulated enough experiences against high-level opposition to understand that every previous match becomes information. That is one reason her development has been so impressive. She isn't simply collecting victories. She is collecting experience. Every difficult opponent teaches her something. Every loss exposes meeting. Every comeback builds something. And every breakthrough adds another layer to her competitive identity. That is why the earlier result should not be ignored. It provides context. It tells us that these players aren't entering Washington as blank pages. They already have history, and history changes how athletes approach each other. The biggest change in Alex's game, perhaps the most important development, isn't a single shot. It is belief. Alex now walks onto court believing she belongs. That sounds simple. It isn't. For years, young players can possess extraordinary technical ability while still carrying a tiny question inside themselves. Can I really beat this player? Can I really compete here? Can I really survive this stage? At some point, that question disappears. And Alex's recent results suggest that she is reaching that stage. She isn't simply hoping to compete against elite players. She expects herself to compete. That difference is enormous. Confidence changes decision-making. A confident player attacks the short ball instead of waiting. She steps inside the baseline. She takes the return earlier. She trusts her movement. She doesn't panic after losing a few points. That is exactly what Alex will need in Washington. What can go wrong? Now, let's be honest about the danger. Alex can lose. That doesn't mean her rise was a fluke. It doesn't mean she has suddenly become overrated. It means tennis is brutally competitive. A player ranked number 28 can lose to a player ranked number 80. A Grand Slam champion can lose in round 1. A tournament favorite can be eliminated before the cameras even arrive in large numbers. That is the sport. The mistake would be to interpret one result as the entire story. If Alex loses in Washington, the correct response isn't panic. The correct response is analysis. What happened? Was the serve under pressure? Was the return ineffective? Did the opponent attack her backhand? Did the conditions change the match? Did fatigue play a role? Did expectations become too heavy? Those questions matter more than the headline. Because Alex's career is not going to be determined by one Washington match. It will be determined by what she does over the next several years. What a deep run would mean, but imagine the other possibility. Alex wins round 1. Suddenly the pressure decreases. She has survived the trap. She gets another match. The crowd grows. The attention grows. And then, potentially, comes Fernandez. Now the story becomes real. A victory there could be enormous. Not simply because of the name. Not simply because of the headline. But because it would demonstrate that Alex can navigate the pressure of being a highly ranked player while defeating established competition. That would be another step toward the next level. And that's the fascinating part about her career. The milestones are coming faster now. Each one seems to arrive before fans have had time to fully process the previous one. Junior champion, professional breakthrough, top 100, top 50, top 30, number 28. And now the conversation is shifting again. Can she reach the top 20? Can she reach the top 10? Can she become a Grand Slam contender? Can she eventually challenge for the number 1 ranking? Those questions would have sounded ridiculous not long ago. They don't sound ridiculous anymore. That is how quickly Alex Eala has changed the conversation. America is watching. There is also something important happening geographically. Alex is entering a phase of her career where North America becomes increasingly important. The American tennis audience is enormous. The media market is enormous. The sponsorship opportunities are enormous. And the potential Filipino-American fan base is enormous. Every successful match increases her visibility. Every viral moment introduces her to people who didn't know her before. And Washington is exactly the kind of tournament where that process can accelerate. A packed crowd, a recognizable opponent, a strong performance, a dramatic finish. Those are the ingredients that turn a tennis match into a cultural moment. Alex already understands how to create those moments. Now she has to do it consistently. The next generation is here. This is bigger than Alex. Women's tennis is changing. The established stars are still powerful. The Grand Slam champions remain dangerous. But younger players are forcing their way into the conversation. They aren't waiting for permission. They aren't waiting for the previous generation to retire. They're winning. They're challenging. They're climbing. And Alex is part of that movement. Her rise is especially significant because of where she comes from. The Philippines does not have the same tennis infrastructure or historical position in the sport as some of the traditional tennis powers. That makes her emergence even more meaningful. She isn't simply climbing the rankings. She is expanding the map of where elite tennis can come from. And every tournament gives her another opportunity to make that map larger. Why this week matters. So, why does Washington matter so much? Because Alex has reached the stage where every tournament can reinforce her new identity. She is no longer the player everyone is discovering. She is the player everyone is studying. That is a completely different responsibility. The challenge now is consistency. Can she produce her best tennis when nobody is surprised by her anymore? Can she beat players who have spent weeks studying her? Can she handle the pressure of entering tournaments with expectations? Can she turn her ranking into a permanent position rather than a temporary peak? Those questions will follow her everywhere. Washington is simply the next test. And the draw has given her a difficult one. So forget the headline for a moment, forget the Fernandez matchup. Forget the social media graphics. Forget the predictions. Forget the hypothetical quarterfinal. Look at the first match. Look at the opponent. Look at the pressure. Look at the ranking. Look at what Alex has accomplished to get here. Then understand what she is trying to do next. She is trying to prove that the number 28 next to her name isn't simply a career high. She is trying to prove it is the beginning of something much bigger. And that is why this opening match matters. Because the fastest way to become a top player is to learn how to win the matches you're expected to win. The spectacular victories will always get the headlines. The big-name upsets will always go viral. But careers are built on the less glamorous matches. The first rounds. The hot afternoons. The difficult opponents. The days when your best tennis isn't there, but you find a way anyway. That is where elite players separate themselves. And Alex Eala is entering that stage now. The big questions, so here is the question I want you to keep in mind when Alex steps onto the Washington court. Not, will she face Leylah Fernandez? The real question is, has Alex Eala reached the point where she can handle being the player everyone expects to advance? Because if she has, this tournament could become extremely interesting. If she survives the first round, the pressure changes. If she wins the second, the conversation changes again. If she reaches Fernandez, the entire tennis world will suddenly be watching. And if she beats her, then Washington could become another major turning point in the Eala story. But none of that is guaranteed. That's what makes tennis so compelling. The draw can tell you what might happen. It cannot tell you what will happen. A ranking can tell you where a player stands. It cannot tell you how she will respond when the match gets tight at 5-5. A potential blockbuster matchup can dominate headlines. But one unexpected opponent can destroy the entire script. And that is exactly what makes Alex Eala's Washington journey so fascinating. The story everyone wants is already waiting in the draw. But the story that matters most is sitting one match before it. The road ahead. Alex Eala has already changed what Philippine tennis looks like on the global stage. She has already created moments that fans back home will remember for generations. But now comes the harder part: consistency, expectation, pressure, responsibility, the next ranking, the next tournament, the next opponent, and eventually the next Grand Slam. The climb doesn't become easier because you reach number 28. It becomes harder. Every step upward brings stronger opponents and larger expectations. But it also brings something else: opportunity. Alex now has access to stages that once seemed impossibly far away. She has the ranking. She has the experience. She has the fan base. She has the confidence. And perhaps most importantly, she has already shown that she belongs. Washington is another chance to prove it. Not through a headline. Not through hype. Not through a potential matchup. Through tennis. Point by point. Game by game. Round by round. And if she can navigate the danger waiting in front of her, then the matchup everyone is talking about could finally become real. But until then, there is only one thing Alex Eala can control: the next point. And that is exactly where her attention needs to be. Because somewhere inside this Washington draw is a player who would love nothing more than to become the person who ends Eala's story before it even reaches the headline matchup. Alex has spent years working for this moment. Now she has to defend it. And that may be the most important lesson of all. breaking through is one thing. Staying there is another. The world now knows Alex Eala. The question is whether the world is ready for how much higher she can still climb. So when the first ball is served in Washington, don't look ahead. Don't think about Fernandez. Don't think about the quarterfinals. Don't think about the rankings. Watch the first game. Watch the first return. Watch how Alex moves. Watch how she responds when the opponent pushes back. Because somewhere in those first few games, we may discover the answer to the biggest question surrounding her career right now. Has Alex Eala simply reached number 28? Or has she finally arrived at the level where number 28 is only the beginning? That is the story worth watching. And Washington is where the next chapter begins.